take on a topic that we can't hit hard enough, which is the bonanza in B2B marketplaces. As I mentioned earlier in our broadcast today, when my colleague Paul and I began counting B2B marketplaces maybe 3 years ago, we came up with 70. In our forthcoming 2021 B2B Marketplace 250, I could have kept on counting, but there's 250 now and more are coming online here. So why did B2B marketplaces become such a hot commodity? What's the future for it? How did the COVID-19 bonanza, extravaganza facilitate what's happening with this explosion of participation across the marketplaces? My colleague, Paul Demery, is going to lead a panel looking into just that. So Paul, the floor is all yours.
Thanks very much, Mark. It's great to be here. And welcome to this panel. It's called the Bonanza in B2B Marketplaces. And we're really fortunate today. We have 3 really interesting marketplaces. And in each case, the panelist here takes the title of founder and CEO of the marketplace. So we have Luke Powers, who's co-founder and CEO of GearFlow, which is a marketplace for construction equipment. And we have Amin-Javaheri, who's also founder and CEO for Knowde, which connects buyers and sellers in markets ranging from chemicals to food and nutrition. And we have Meir Rozolio, founder and CEO of ePlane, a marketplace for aerospace parts and repair services. So it's great to have you all here. And to start out, it'd be good to just hear from our panelists on, as Mark mentioned, there's a huge and growing number of B2B online marketplaces worldwide. So if you could all, give us an idea of, briefly just what's driving buyers and sellers to your marketplace, and how are your sales trending? Luke, would you like to start out with that?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Great to see all you guys.
Yeah, really great to be here. Really appreciate it. So what's driving suppliers and buyers to gearflow.com, and we are actually construction equipment parts, specifically, we focus on the parts side, the component level of construction equipment. I come from the construction equipment industry, and I just realized it's so unbelievably hard to find what you need. All of these machines are made up, of course, of components. These components have many different aftermarket suppliers, as well as, of course, the manufacturer channel. So aftermarket part suppliers who might focus just, for example, on a joystick or just on their glass or fork tines, it's very hard for them to get in front of people who need their components, except when they're listed in a marketplace next to other complementary components on that machinery. That's why suppliers really love to sell on GearFlow. We only allow in vetted suppliers, top aftermarket suppliers, as well as, of course, the OEMs, and it's fully transparent. So to buyers, to anybody that goes to gearflow.com, you see exactly who you're buying from, the company history, the return policies, the warranty policies, all that good stuff. So you can theoretically buy 10 different parts from 10 different vetted suppliers and be on your way.
Well, great. Thanks, Luke. And I know you're serving a really timely market there. And Ali, can you also, every time we turn around, we hear that another company like DuPont or Mitsubishi Chemical is opening up a storefront on your marketplace.
Thanks for the compliment. Yeah, so just to give a little bit more context, we are a B2B online marketplace for raw materials. So we connect chemical and ingredient suppliers with the millions of manufacturing companies out there that buy the raw materials in order to create their finished product. And not to repeat everything that Luke said, but I think there's a lot of patterns that happen in B2B that are pretty common, right? You've got a lot of opacity, inefficient buying processes, almost everything's offline. And what we do is provide transparency and make it really easy to go through the search and discovery process and find exactly what you're looking for and be able to engage suppliers and ask the right questions so that you can get back to what you normally want to be doing throughout the day rather than just interacting with a sales rep offline. And then from a seller's perspective, you know, our industry is, you know, kind of, you know, I would say, you know, stuck in the mid 90s, right? I mean, they haven't really adopted, you know, the latest technology, and there's not a lot of tech companies out there that are going after a market like this. And so we're essentially giving them all the tools they need to be able to, you know, market and sell in a very modern way, and, you know, expand their reach and get their products in front of more customers. And, you know, all the reasons that anybody would join a marketplace, regardless of B2C or B2B, is why a seller would join us.
Well, thank you, Ali. And Meir, it's good to see you too. So give us the quick rundown on ePlane.
Yeah, so good to be here. So to add it to what Ali and Luke said, so it's you know, the aerospace industry is a very traditional industry with a lack of transparency and data and a tool to maintain the day-to-day purchasing. You know, we are talking about huge industry, globally wise, and the same thing that Bayer did 56 years ago, they are doing the same in our days. What ePlane bring is bringing a real-time connectivity solution in one hand, going to talking with any type of ERP system. And you'll be surprised that there is a huge airlines globally that still, in some cases, even not using an ERP system, using an old system to maintain the daily activity in one hand. And still there is buyers in some airlines going to be surprised using fax to send RFQ. When the airline facing an AOG, they still have the red fax and the gray fax and the green fax. It's very strange, and we are now in 2021. So we are facing a very traditional industry. Having said so, there is a huge transmission in this industry, although we're facing a lot of challenging on that aspect. So what ePlane bring a lot of technology, a lot of understanding this challenge. We understand it technology-wise, and we try to fix it.
Yeah, that's great. That you can fix a lot of things with these marketplaces in many ways. And so each of you runs a marketplace that deals with really complexity of online ordering, right, and fulfillment of industrial equipment and parts in vertical industries. Can you give us an example, each of you, on how you're working out, you know, one of your toughest challenges in keeping things, you know, running smoothly and building sales? Ali, you want to?
Sure. Yeah. You know, it's no surprise that the B2B buying journey is like long, winding process that, you know, goes online, goes offline, can take, you know, 12 to 18 months before you get to procurement. And so unlike a lot of B2C marketplaces, you got to build a lot of, you know, workflows and other types of tools in order to keep people engaged and in the platform until they eventually get to the actual procurement of the product. And so like when we think about, you know, the buying journey, you know, it's not about the transaction, right? I mean, the transaction will eventually happen if you delight people through the whole process. You know, what we try to do first is make sure that they're able to search and find the right thing really easily and be able to connect with suppliers really easily. And that is something that I don't know that is always obvious, but I think totally necessary in these marketplaces.
Okay, and yeah, Luke, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's a great response, Ali. Yeah, you know, it doesn't matter if our features that we're building doesn't help contractors maintain their fleet better. I mean, it really kind of nothing matters, right? So it's all done in context of, I think, the three of our suppliers and customers. And you know, on the customer side for us, primarily that's small to mid-sized contractors that, by the way, have had a productivity loss since 1990 of 28% compared to the overall economy, which is over 300%. They need their equipment to be up and running in order to do their work. So by being able to easily maintain their fleet through GearFlow and us building the tools for them to plug in and do that is a huge productivity gain because their machines are up. And on the supplier side, you know, again, back to the point of them getting online and, you know, instead of being in the, you know, trying to compete on Google for their keywords, which are highly specific and hard to get in front of the right buyers, they get in front of all of these equipment owners right on GearFlow. So we just want to make it turnkey for both sides to grow their companies, be more productive, just in our vertical. And it's less about the masses, more about what I think probably the three of us in our own industries are building for, in the specific tools that, that our suppliers and buyers need.
Look, it's funny, you mentioned Google, and I will add it to what you said. When someone asks me, we are working really, I'm talking now from the aerospace industry, in a very challenging industry with a lot of challenge, with old method, with people. It's a very old industry, guys, professional. Grow from the ground. They are well knowledge guy, professional guy, know exactly what they are buying. And now a young generation comes with technology that help them to make their day-to-day smoothly. So when someone asks me, give me one pitch, one sentence, what is ePlane? So ePlane, so we are trying to do a combination of Google, Alibaba, and Amazon, and I will explain what I mean by that. I mean by that ePlane, we are trying to provide, and I think this is true to all of our three marketplaces that you mentioned. We try, first of all, it's all about data, right? It's all about data. It's all about how you provide the data, how you make the platform friendly. So this is one. Secondly, how you make it A to Z, easy to simplify the way that buyers procure, and how they are chatting with each other. The young generation, in the airlines industry and the MRO industry, they're not doing phone calls anymore. They're using chat. They're using any type of technology platform that help them to communicate with each other. And last, we are dealing with a B2B huge industry with tons of ego and politics behind this industry. And most of the activity goes directly to the OEMs in our case, meaning that we are focusing now mainly on the commercial and business jet industry. So we are targeting obviously also the OEMs. So there is a lot of challenge in between. So the way to convince them, and what again excites me every day when I wake up and see the numbers in my platform, is that on daily basis we see new users join the platform, and we are surprising by simplify the way that we're onboarding the customer in one hand. In the other hand, we're telling them, look, we are not trying to change the way you're doing business. We are listening to you. We are meeting. It's still, although it's a technology platform. Before the COVID, I literally live in airplanes. I was fly a lot before the COVID. Although thanks to the COVID, I learned there is other way to do business today, which is also another benefit from this situation that we face. So I must to say that in our industry, with all the challenge that we have, I think that we are bringing, and that's something that we need to emphasize more to the customers, to the industry. In our case, which sometimes we are doing good and sometimes we're doing less good, is how we really simplify the way and we empower the buyer and the seller. And this is a very tricky, because when I'm coming to airlines, the airline tells when I'm talking with the procurement manager, with the director manager, I had a very good talk last week with one of the largest airlines domestically. And he told me, Meir, by implementing your technology, I need to send home 50 people. I said, no, this is not the case. The case is let's focus on the right asset. In our industry, in the aviation industry, when you buy asset that costs $1,000, and when you buy asset that costs $100,000, the process of sourcing is the same. And you will be surprised that even now, they are sending RFQ, waiting 1 day or two, try to negotiate. In between, the aircraft is facing an AOG. And that's how airline losing tons of money. And regardless, we are talking about very slim profit in this industry. So we are trying really to show them that by integrate ePlane to the daily activity, we really bring efficiency. And that's our main challenge. Again, in our case, and trying to show to the suppliers, by using ePlane, we empower you. We're not trying to bypass you. And the same thing for the buyers. By using ePlane, we try to empower you also with your suppliers, and try to give you the right tool to communicate and to. So that's the technology is not a challenge. In our case, the main challenge obviously is education, and we try not to educate the industry, and also and obviously the business side. So this is the mess. This is the mess the main challenge that we are facing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Meir. And you guys do a great job of helping airlines keep their planes up in the air and minimize their time on the ground for maintenance. And so, Luke, what are some other ways that you're like differentiating from others in the market with value-added services? I'm wondering, perhaps there are people around on the job site, they can use mobile devices or something. I would assume new apps to buy and have things delivered regardless of where they are.
Right. That's exactly right, Paul. Yeah, Meir, it's interesting you mentioned low margin. I'd be interested to see if Ali had the same. In our industry, contractors are faced with 5.5% margin on job sites. So it's very low. And I think probably what the three of us are building is it's an opportunity because business has been done the same way for the past 50 to 70 years. And it's a lot of incrementalism that we can unlock a lot of value, in our supply chains and on the business to the companies doing business, basically unlock them to, basically have higher productivity for their output. And that's the kind of the point to this question, Paul, is that's exactly right. We instead of just selling a part, that's great that we sell widgets, but it's more about how do contractors and other equipment owners really gain productivity and be able to understand their fleet where they couldn't before. 80 to 85% of our industry is small to mid-sized businesses. Actually, the highest concentration of small and mid-sized businesses of any industry is in construction. If you just think about anybody who's listening, the contractors that run around your area may just focus in demolition, maybe roofing, maybe drywalling, might be masonry, whatever. But there are hundreds of thousands of these businesses that really just kind of have equipment out of necessity because they're focused on their work, they're focused on their pipeline, they're focused on their labor, and the equipment serves that. So the easier we make it for them to maintain their fleet and therefore the more uptime they have, the better, because a job can come to a standstill when it breaks. And again, we want to do it through what Meir said is that, it's through the current supply chain. We just believe it's offline and really hard to do business with and see. There's very little transparency there. If we can unlock what's on all these shelves throughout the US, both nationally to ship in and locally around them, what a great gain for both the supply side and of course, the customer side.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. And so Ali and Knowde, in your case, I mean, you really have quite a variety of kinds of companies that you deal with and the materials they deal with. And also, I would assume they vary quite a bit by size too. I'm sure. I know there's some very big ones. I'm sure you have some smaller ones. I was wondering, how do you zero in on how you help them when they're all so different?
On the supply side or the buy side?
Well, actually, I meant on both. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the buy side, the needs are actually fairly consistent across the market. I mean, when you're a large buyer or a small buyer, I mean, you're having to go through the same sort of process where you're searching, you're learning, you're engaging, asking questions, sampling, again, learning, and then eventually transacting. And sometimes you'd think that the big companies have a massive advantage over the little ones in terms of their ability to access information and learn faster and all these sort of things, but it's not necessarily true in our market. They're just as sort of stuck in this opaque, sort of information opacity, and they're stuck in so many different places in their buying journey. And so from our perspective, we don't hyper segment certain parts of the buy side of the market and say, look, this is a better fit for us versus others. I mean, at the end of the day, they're people that are trying to go through a buying journey, and unless the sellers are providing everything they're looking for, it doesn't matter if they're small or big. I mean, they're not going to be able to get through the journey. And then on the sell side, this is a little bit more of an involved answer. It's very natural for marketplaces to want to go to the long tail, right? I mean, being able to help the small guys get on a level playing field and being able to, help them sort of reach more customers and being able to get their products from more suppliers is kind of a very natural thing that a marketplace wants to do. And we certainly want to as well. But in our market, the big guys are just as sort of, constrained when it comes to getting their products exposed to the whole market. And so, we're a completely open platform, both buyers and sellers, small, medium, large. I mean, they're all sort of naturally gravitating to Knowde.
Right. And I also wanted to ask you all, now, Meir, you talked before about the importance of all the data that in marketplaces, you have all kinds of data that you gather and you can share with both the buyers and the sellers. And so, how do you make your marketplace, and maybe by sharing that data, to help make the buyers and sellers more comfortable with it? If they maybe are a little hesitant at first to engage in this kind of commerce, or to maybe open up and share their information. I guess how at ePlane, how have you helped the buyers and sellers just feel more comfortable about all this?
So as I said, since we established ePlane, we really have been positioned at more learning and listening to our customers. Meaning that we try to create in ePlane what we call community, and we try to try to tell to everyone that the data that we are all sharing is benefit all. So that's the basic, that everybody agree to share the data. Obviously, talking about data, nobody know who provide what, obviously. But having said that, we create a very friendly data and reporting system that benefit our users. And like every industry, it's definitely in our industry, it's all about data. Data, for example, who have what, real time, what will be the right price. We are, in the end of the day, in our industry, we're talking about commodity. And before the buyer push the button and make the PO, we'd like to make sure that the right is right, bought it in the right price. So this is one. Secondly, and again, in the airlines industry, part of the challenge is how we are optimize our inventory. So by providing this data, you can see who have what and how much I need to buy, and what the level of inventory I need to buy, etc. Also, the data is not only about pricing and availability, it's also about alternative. There is out there in the market, in our industry, there is what we call PMA and OEM. So also there is that. And also on the aircraft industry, when the OEM manufacture aircraft, usually on the RSPL, you have the OEM part, let's say Boeing part, and then the Boeing usually select several alternatives for each part number. So we also show that for the buyer in a very friendly way, which today they don't have it. So that's regarding that. That's on the buyer side. On the seller side, the same. Where is the most demand in the global? Where I should locate in my inventory? It should be in US, should be in UK, should be in Singapore, should be in Beijing, etc. What are the inventory that need to be located? How many from each? Who are the customer? There is a lot of data that we need to that we take in consideration. And you also be surprised that there is a lot of investment institution globally that's really interesting on this data. Leasing company in our industry, there is a huge banking industry behind us that need this data as part of a relation. When you come to lease aircraft, they need data to evaluate the value of the aircraft as part of. So that's part of solution that we are bringing with this, with building this data and reporting system. It's a big data.
Yeah. Right. Like I say, that'll just continue to be more and more important. Looks like we have about 5 minutes left here, and I'd like to ask also each of you if you could just give us an example of how you may use some kind of cutting edge technologies, artificial intelligence or other things to better match supply and demand, and build sales in your existing and perhaps future markets. Luke, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we, again, we do construction equipment parts, which are highly relational to each other. So if you have a skid steer and you want a new track, let's say a rubber track for your skid steer, you should probably order rollers as well. how we're building GearFlow is partly through just a parts attribution at checkout and post checkout back to a machines table, so we can better understand what parts fit are verified to fit what machines based off what people are buying, but also what parts should we recommend to make your life easier. You know, there's just nothing worse than ordering a group of parts, receiving them all, going to fix the machine, and realizing, oh, you forgot a gasket or you forgot a roller, right? And your machine's still down, you need to reorder that, and more time is lost. So we're building the platform from the ground up to be a recommendation algorithm that uses product grouping tags, category tags, product recommendation tags in a way that's specific to each of our audiences who are buyers. There's all different types of contractors who have all different types of machinery. And we want to build the system in a way that's flexible enough for each of those types of groups to make it beneficial for what they do. And of course, that benefits the supply side. Again, getting back to the reason why they're on here in the first place is their components can be marketed and sold next to complementary components for the same machines. So it just kind of creates this great network effect and streamlining of purchasing effect. They make it a little more programmatic than of course what's offline today. Right.
Sounds great. Great reason to have a marketplace. And Ali, I know we have just a couple minutes left. I'd love to hear from you and Meir.
Sure. As you know, in our market, just as I'm sure in the other two, there's tons of information that is offline. It could be in documents, it could be in people's heads, most of which is completely unstructured. And so, part of the value of any one of these B2B marketplaces is to be able to organize and structure and be able to, as we say internally, dance on top of that data. Paul, I'd love to be able to answer your question directly about what Knowde is planning on doing with that data. However, you're starting to get into some of our secret sauce, and I can't necessarily go there. But just know that there's such a massive opportunity, as the other guys have said, to be able to start to surface information that have been sitting dormant for so long, and allow people to be able to see that information and make decisions on that information in order to speed up their buying process. And our market's no different. There's tons of data that's sitting in unstructured PDF documents. And if you can start to ingest that data, organize it, structure it, make it presentable, you start to really accelerate these buying processes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ali. And okay, I'm getting the 1 minute warning here. So sorry, Meir, if you can comment in the minute we got left here, where you see things going.
Yeah, I will say again, it's all about data. It's all about data. Data is equivalent to efficiency. So the data is all out there, and exactly as Bo said, it's all how you present it to your customers, to your users. We are integrating ePlane BI and AI technologies, and as well machine learning. Anything that any document in our platform, any chat that going on in our platform, any request, anything is recorded, and we present it to the customer as part of the reporting system. So it's all about data, and I think that eventually the big difference, I think, nowadays between a success company and less success companies, how they manage with the data and how they present it to the whole business needs.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Meir and Ali and Luke. It's great to hear from you all. Maybe next time we'll get a little more of your secret sauce, or at least I'll keep our eye on you guys and watch how you're continuing to